Live from New York, this is the Harvey Hour. My name is Nathan Harvey. It's great to have you in on a Friday. As always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. How are you doing today on this Friday?
I'm always happy on a Friday, Nate.
We got a lot of news to talk about. A lot of really great topics. We're talking baseball. Shohei Ohtani might be in some hot water with his interpreter and himself potentially in a gambling situation. The MLB actually broke something about 10 minutes ago saying that they're opening an investigation against him. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But let's talk about some NFL news, New England Patriots news, because supposedly Mel Kiper is not as confident in the Patriots drafting a quarterback as he was before free agency started. And the fact that it's coming out that the Patriots aren't in love with Drake Maye, and it looks like the Commanders have fallen in love with Jaden Daniels, so he'll probably go number 2. And the Patriots would then be left up with Drake Maye, Marvin Harrison, an offensive lineman, whoever they want at the number 3 position. But with Minnesota now having 2 first-round picks, number 11 and number 23, trading back for the Patriots seems a lot more likely because you could probably get a Bo Nix, a J.J. McCarthy, or a Michael Penix at that 11 or 23 spot if they decide to trade both of those picks to the Patriots, the Vikings would. So I want to know, do you think the Patriots should keep the number 3 overall pick, or do you think they should trade back in order to, gain a lot of capital and potentially fill multiple holes in this draft that they need, especially on offense?
I think that they have to wait and see what quarterbacks are available when they get to the 3rd pick. If either Jalen Daniels or Caleb Williams are available, then I think they should take one of them. If they're not, and they think that J.J. McCarthy they apparently they don't like Drake Maye. That's what I'm hearing. I haven't heard them say that, but that's what I'm hearing. If a quarterback that they like but don't think warrants a 3rd-round pick and they think will be there by number 11, then I think they should trade down. I think they should take the 2 picks from Minnesota. I don't know what Minnesota's thinking. Do they love Drake Maye? I don't know.
They need a quarterback.
They need a quarterback. We know that. But do they want to sacrifice those 2 first-round picks? I mean, that's a lot of capital.
It is.
That's a lot of capital, 2 first-round picks. And the 23rd pick, there are 32 teams, so it's still quite high up there. There's still excellent players at 23. So there will be a quarterback at number 11. If the Patriots like Bo Nix, they like Michael Penix, they like J.J. McCarthy.
Yep.
Then one of those 3 is going to be there for sure. So why not trade down? That would be my thought.
I'm going to agree with you.
Unless, as I say, Caleb Williams or Jalen Daniels are available. If they're not, then I would trade down.
There's probably no shot that Caleb Williams drops to number 3.
Yeah.
And I don't think the Patriots would trade up to get the number 1 pick. I think it's way too much. And honestly, the Patriots don't have all that much unless you want to trade other Christian Gonzalez and Matt Judon and then your first-round pick or something along the lines. You would have to give up so much to get a quarterback that, who knows? Could be a bust. A lot of people think he'll be a bust, but he has incredible talent. I'm not one of those people that are sold on Drake Maye. And a close friend of mine brought this to my attention, so I'll give him a shout out. You know who you are. It was a funny comparison. I want you to figure this out. So Drake Maye and this mystery quarterback, they have very similar stats. Drake Maye, an 18-10 record in his career at UNC. Completion percentage, 64, nearly 65%. Passing yards per game, 286. Touchdown interceptions is 63-16. And yards per attempt is 8.4. The mystery quarterback, which I'll name in a second, is 20-17 for his college career record, a 63.8% completion percentage, 277.9 passing yards a game, 92 touchdowns to only 23 picks in his college career, and finally, more yards per attempt at 9.2. So I would say these stats are close enough that they're
92 to 63.
Sorry, 9 point. Oh, yeah, I'm talking about overall. You can look at the touchdowns, but he also played 10 more games, 9 more games, but that also doesn't warrant 30 more touchdowns.
Yeah, right.
So if you're worried about just touchdowns alone, saying that, or you're saying that the mystery quarterback on the right is better, or do you think this is close enough that these quarterbacks are basically the same? Because Maye also has more passing yards a game, higher completion percentage, a better record. Just less yards per attempt and fewer touchdowns.
Those touchdown to interception ratio to me is
so you think that
so pretty important. I would say the mystery quarterback winner in that comparison. I'd like to know what the QBR rating was for
Well,
both of them.
the college quarterback rating is calculated differently. For instance, 158.3 is the highest for in the NFL. We see, college quarterback ratings there in the 180s or something like that. I'll reveal the mystery quarterback. It's UNC's Sam Howell. Sam Howell was a 5th-round pick. And I want to read some of the scouting reports on both these quarterbacks because they're honestly a little bit similar. So, for Drake Maye, his scouting report is inefficient throwing motion creates inconsistencies in accuracy. Receivers had to chase too many intermediate throws into the turf. Can get uncomfortable when initial reads aren't clear and clean. 16 career interceptions were mostly earned with poor decisions or throws. This one is kind of familiar if you've been following the Patriots the past 2 years. Tendency to make bad plays worse. Will run into sacks or throw head-scratching interceptions trying to save the play. Does that ring any bells for anyone? Mac Jones had that situation, especially this year. What about Sam Howell? Pat ball and wind up slow the release. Also, touch and timing both need work. That's similar to what we just heard about Drake Maye. Placement issues make receivers work hard. Lack accuracy on drive throws. Needs to trust his eyes and cut it loose. Takes too many unnecessary sacks. Very similar on the weakness scale. Now, obviously, you could say that Drake Maye has a tremendous arm. He has better athletic ability. Although you look at the tendencies, they are, a lot of the same. You also look at some of Sam Howell's highlights under the college football YouTube channel. A lot of people say best deep ball in college football at the time, and go on and on and on about it. So these quarterbacks are somewhat of the same. The stats-wise, the performance on the same team also, the same, college is, I would say a wash. The scouting reports are very, very similar for their weaknesses. Yet one is going potentially, who was argued for most of this time, was the number 2 overall pick that only has recently slid down to number 3 maybe because Jaden Daniels had a tremendous season last year. So it's quite interesting how one could be a 5th-round pick in a quarterback class that Kenny Pickett went as the first quarterback at pick 20, and Sam Howell went in the 5th round.
Yeah. Kenny Pickett is looking like a bust draft pick, huh?
100%.
Yeah, he got traded to the Eagles for, a 5th-round pick?
And now Sam Howell is a backup to Geno Smith. Or who knows? He could compete for the starting job this season.
Yeah, I don't think he wins.
All I know is Sam Howell, and also their scouting rating is like 0.17 difference, which is basically the same. One is like an average quarterback in the NFL, and one's a boom or bust candidate. What would you rather want, an average quarterback or a boom or a bust?
Boom or a bust.
You'd rather a boomer? You'd rather take that shot? Have this on the Patriots.
Why do you want an average quarterback? An average quarterback is not going
to.
You're not going to take you to the Super Bowl.
You know what you're getting though with an average quarterback. When you're a boom or a bust candidate, you need Drake Maye would need a lot of help, and also he did not have a great last season with the Tar Heels. Like it was.
You wind up a boom.
24 touchdowns.
If you wind up a boom, then your team will be very criticized for not taking him.
What if you're a bust, though? Which a lot of these first-round quarterbacks are.
That happens. That happens more than not. The boom candidates are rare.
Right.
So how many quarterbacks that take their teams to the Super Bowl are average quarterbacks? Name one.
I mean, here's one. Trent Dilfer. He wasn't even a good quarterback.
Yeah, but that was like ages ago. That's
you say. Give me a
okay. That's one.
Recently.
That's one. There've been almost 60 Super Bowls.
How would you feel about Jared Goff? Jared Goff when he was with the Lions. Oh, sorry, when he was with the Rams, not with the Lions. I think he grew into a good quarterback.
I think he was a good quarterback at the Rams, and they ruined him.
You think?
Yeah. He did take him to the Super Bowl. He took him to the Super Bowl.
I'm not disagreeing with that. Todd Gurley had a tremendous year that year. You can't dispute that. And I'll give him credit. He outplayed Mahomes in the greatest Monday night game I probably have ever seen.
Yeah.
So he had his moments, but now on the Lions, he's much more consistent. There's a reason Sean McVay got off of him.
Better coaching.
You think Dan Gamble is better coached?
He's not the offensive coordinator. Dan Gamble's not the offensive coordinator or the quarterback's coach. I think Jared Goff has benefited from being at the Lions.
Fair.
They didn't treat him. Even Sean McVay said he didn't treat. He has regrets about the way he treated Jared Goff.
He was also used as a contractual throwaway piece in that trade for Matt Stafford.
Yeah.
But I would think, honestly, the fact, and that's the big thing, you have a top 3 pick in the draft. And in a draft class that's filled with wide receiver talent, offensive line talent, and quarterback talent, And especially at number 3, you just got off of your starting quarterback that you drafted 3 years ago. Now it's 4 years ago. You have to love the candidate. That's why the Bears took that long, supposedly, to trade Justin Fields. They were going to do their due diligence on Caleb Williams in order to make sure that he was going to be their long-term solution at quarterback. Which, newsflash, based on Chicago's history, no quarterback will ever be a game changer in Chicago. Caleb Williams might flip that script. But you have to fall in love with the quarterback. And if you don't love him at number 3, there's a team right now that is 2 first-round picks that is desperate for a quarterback, because I guarantee you they are not going to want. They might have to, but they're not going to want to start the season with Sam Darnold as their starting quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Also, a lot of scouts say that you might not even want to start Drake Maye in his first season because he needs a lot of work.
Okay, so now let's look at it. No, let's look at it from Minnesota's point of view, right? Not just the Patriots' point of view. They have the 11th and the 23rd pick. They're going to make the same assessment that the Patriots are going to make. They're going to look at the first 2 picks, see who got taken. They have an idea of who they think is the quarterback that they want. If that quarterback is gone, they're going to say, well, do we like J.J. McCarthy? Do we like Bo Nix? Do we like Michael Penix? Do we think they'll be around? One of those 3 will be around at pick number 11. Yeah, there will be. Okay, so hang on to the 23rd pick. Why give it up?
Well, here's the big thing.
Yeah, they should stay at 11 and 23 unless Daniels or
Maye.
Williams falls to number 3. And if they do, then the Patriots are going to take one. So I think Minnesota is going to wind up still with 11 and 23.
Well, here's the big
unless
thing.
they really feel like those 3 quarterbacks, or they don't like 2 of them, right, are going to be gone at number 11. And I don't think they will be. They'll be maybe two of them should be there by pick 11, I think.
Well, here's the big thing. Josh McCown and also Kevin O'Connell. They apparently, according to this quote here by Alec Lewis of The Athletic, the Vikings adore Drake Maye. So this could be a situation where the Patriots, it's not even that you're falling out of the first round. It's not like you're trading for 2 of next year's first-round picks. You could potentially get 2 first-round picks in this draft. And if you do that, you have an opportunity to capitalize on, because I think the Giants are the massive question mark here, because they're really the first team that's going to draft a quarterback outside of the top 3. So if the Giants go, let's say they go wide receiver, offensive line, that means you still have the 3 options of J.J. McCarthy, Michael Penix, and Bo Nix. And in my opinion, I still love Bo Nix. I like Bo Nix out of those top 3.
Yeah.
I would go Bo Nix, JJ, and then Michael Penix personally. But if the Vikings really offer you, and I don't care about next year's second round, next year's third, if you have the opportunity to get this year's 11th and 23rd overall picks, and you don't love Drake Maye, that's a 100% sure. No question. We'll take your 2 first-round picks. Just take the number 3 pick. They draft Drake Maye because your team's not built for Marvin Harrison. Your team's not built drafting offensive lineman that high when the quarterback is your glaring need. You're probably not going to go with an offensive lineman. But that 23rd pick, you can get, I'm not going to say it's a top-tier offensive lineman, but you can get an offensive lineman there. You might be able to get a tier, I would say, B-plus wide receiver, and you may fill a massive hole there. You can fill 2 holes in one singular round and have the rest of the draft to fill other depth pieces that you might need.
Well, who else could potentially take a quarterback besides the Bears, the Commanders, the Patriots, and the Giants? Who else in the top 10 there? Is there anybody else that might take a quarterback?
That's it. Arizona's going to go wide receiver most likely. Chargers need a wide receiver after getting rid of their top 2. Tennessee needs an offensive line. They had one of the worst. I think they had the worst or the second worst offensive line in the NFL. Yeah. Atlanta's probably going to go defense. I have them drafting Dallas Turner right now.
They just signed
Kirk Cousins. Chicago might go tight end. They might go receiver. They may go offensive line. So that's another. And then the Jets are a huge question mark. Are they going to draft a quarterback that high to back up Aaron Rodgers? They could do that, but most likely because Tyron Smith's only on a 1-year deal, they'll draft an offensive lineman. Then lo and behold, here you are at Minnesota or the Patriots maybe at number 11.
Drake Maye, J.J. McCarthy, Bo Nix, and Michael Penix. 4 quarterbacks. There's probably only two spots.
Yeah.
Yeah, after that. So the 2 of those 2 out of the 4 are definitely going to be there.
And that's if the Giants draft a quarterback.
That's if they draft a quarterback.
Which they might not, because there's no reason to have Tommy DeVito, Drew Lock, and Daniel Jones, and then a rookie quarterback. There's a reason you signed.
No, that would be DeVito would be out.
You would think DeVito would be out if you draft a quarterback. Yeah. Although
I don't know why
the offensive line still
we
sucks.
talked about this last show.
Yeah.
I don't know why the Giants went out and signed Drew Lock. I don't understand it personally.
For me, I think they're going to go offensive line or receiver, most likely receiver, because they don't really have. They signed Isaiah Hodges either today or yesterday, so they brought back a fan favorite there. But is he a difference maker? No. Will he be a difference maker? Probably not.
Yeah.
Does the offensive line still suck? It is bottom 10?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is your defensive line still good, and that's what you spent most of your money on in free agency? Yeah. So, I mean, it's a very Bill Belichickian move to trade back. But if you can still get a top quarterback talent, which this draft is filled with them, and then on the back half of the first round, get a pretty prominent wide receiver, why not?
I think if you can trade back and get 2 first-rounders, 1 in 11, 1 in 23,
that's pretty.
It's
damn
very,
good.
very enticing. Very enticing.
And
I don't think if they don't do it at number 3, right? If they don't do it with the Patriots, I don't think they will do it.
Right.
They ain't going to do it.
The Commanders are not budging because they don't have a quarterback right now. They traded away Sam Howell. Chicago traded away its starting quarterback Justin Fields. Those 2 teams are not moving. And the big thing is that second pick for the Patriots. If they do get the 23rd pick, they right now have 2 tackles that I don't trust for the life of me. Connor McDermott, who wasn't great last year, and then they signed a guy, or they picked him up free agent, a former Steeler, Okafor, yeah, who was also, I think, I might get this wrong, but the 40th out of 50th tackle in the NFL last year. He was very, very poor. So. And
is Trent Williams still with the Patriots, or is he gone?
You mean Trent Brown?
I
wish they had Trent Williams.
Yeah, Trent Williams.
No. I believe he got signed by the Cincinnati Bengals.
Okay.
They got some I think they have 2 6'8", 300+ linemen on each of those tackle sides.
Wow.
So they're beefy in that position. But the Patriots tackle situation is a massive, massive question mark. But I could also see the Patriots doing this. And this might be a very risky move, but they could be planning for the future. Let Jacoby Brissett or Bailey Zappi be the starter this year. You get Marvin Harrison at 3, or you get an offensive lineman at 11 and a wide receiver at 23. Let the Vikings draft Drake Maye or whoever else at 3. You build for next year. Because most likely with Jacoby Brissett or Bailey Zappi, you're probably gonna have a top pick next year anyway. You can go out and get a Quinn Ewers, a Shador Sanders, and you could do that way. I don't hate that idea, but I'd rather see immediate success after the past few seasons of complete and utter failure. But, yeah. Drake Maye, massive question marks for the draft.
It's going to be exciting. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
It's not that far off now.
Yeah, we got about a month, actually, out from the draft. So, it's good. It's going to be quite a story building up to the draft. Let's get into this next topic. So, there's partially breaking news here. So it looks like the MLB is opening up an investigation against Shohei Ohtani after this big scandal with gambling and everything, after the Dodgers fired Shohei Ohtani's interpreter, Ippei Mizuhara. Today, about, I would say 20, 30 minutes ago, the MLB has opened a formal investigation into illegal gambling and theft allegations involving Shohei Ohtani's interpreter. And like I said, he was fired, and there's a lot to break down with this. So ESPN said in an interview on Tuesday, this past Tuesday, where he told ESPN that Ohtani sent him money in order to pay off a gambling debt, which he had ballooned to $4.5 million. And then he came out the next day and said that Ohtani had zero knowledge of his gambling debts and he hadn't transferred any money to the bookmaker's associate, which questions how the hell did the money get there in the first place?
Right.
It's
question.
It's a great question. It looks like there were 2 transactions, each totaling $500,000 that were in Ohtani's name, with the wire transfer information, the description being a loan. There's a lot going on here. A lot of situations because Ohtani and his interpreter may be in hot water depending on what comes out of the MLB's investigation. I want to know, what is your reaction to this entire situation between Ohtani, MLB, and his interpreter, Ippei Mizuhara?
Yeah. Someone is not telling the truth.
That's for sure.
Right? I mean, how could the guy said, the interpreter said, that he went to Ohtani and said, I've got this huge problem, I'm never going to do it again. Can you help me out? And Ohtani said, yeah, I'll help you out. I'll pay off your debts, right? Then he came 2 days later and said Ohtani knew nothing about it. Well, who made the wire transfers out of Ohtani's account directly to the bookie?
Yeah.
I could see the wire transfer out to the interpreter, right? You could do that, but who made the wire transfer directly to the bookie? I would think Ohtani did that, right? Does Ohtani trust other people with his bank account?
That's a massive question.
Does the interpreter had access to his bank account?
Yeah.
I find that a little hard to believe.
Yeah.
That to me, that's hard to believe. And they're in hot water. I think they're in hot water, and rightfully so. The gambling sports gambling in California is illegal.
It's illegal,
right? And while the MLB will allow you to gamble on the sports outside of diamond sports, softball or baseball, it has to be with illegal parties. And,
right.
And the interpreter was doing it with an illegal bookie. So that's a problem for the MLB. And the Dodgers have fired the interpreter. And the IRS is investigating both the interpreter and the bookie.
Yeah.
Now. So, and law enforcement is at Ohtani's handler's request is also investigating the interpreter. I don't know. Ohtani has people who help him who are supposedly his handlers. How the hell does something like this happen? The $4.5 million. Well, you said $1 million was.
He sent according to this report, he sent $500,000. Directly to
the bookie,
to the illegal bookkeeper.
Yeah.
And then according to the information, it's directly from Ohtani's account to this bookkeeper.
Okay, that's the wire transfer. How did the rest of the debt get paid off? I can't believe the interpreter had $4 million to pay off the bookie. I don't think they pay interpreter, or the Dodgers pay somebody like that kind of money to be just an interpreter.
He gets paid $300,000 to $300,000 and $500,000 annually, according to.
How the hell can he run up debts of $4.5 million?
He actually had a quote about that. I'm terrible at gambling. Never going to do it again. Never won any money. Yeah. I mean, I dug myself a hole, and it kept on getting bigger, and it meant I had to bet bigger to get out of it. And just kept on losing. It's like a snowball effect. My major concern is the story keeps changing. And normally, where there's smoke, there's fire. So originally, and by the way, Ohtani's interpreter, Mizuhara, they're very, very close with one another. They've been longtime friends. He comes out and says, Ohtani was trying to help me out. Then, this is what's fascinating. Ohtani then has a law firm, come out and say he's the victim of a massive theft, and we are turning the matter over to the authorities. So this turned from Ohtani potentially being in some hot water by sending this over, and then the MLB has to investigate it, which they are doing now, and he could be suspended for a year for gambling illegally, using an illegal book, and also, if it's bet on baseball, he could be banned from baseball. That's the massive thing. Then this lawyer comes out and says, no, he's a victim of massive theft, which then puts all of the blame on the interpreter for embezzlement and wire fraud and theft. So now, here's where friendship and brotherhood get put to test.
Yeah, well, they're not friends anymore.
Is Ohtani's interpreter willing, if behind the scenes Ohtani did allow him to do this with his money, is he willing to take the fall for him?
Yeah.
Which could be decades in prison, federal prison for this. It's a massive question. But this, and the reason why this is so big is because Ohtani right now is the face of baseball. He signed this past offseason the biggest contract in North American sports history. 10 years, $700 million, which got the weird deferred thing. 10 years from now, he's going to get paid $2 million for the next 10 years, and then $680 over the next 10 years. It's the biggest contract that we've ever seen in professional sports, at least here in North America. And lo and behold, we have a situation where his translator is in massive gambling debts, and Ohtani may be in the center of this. And now the MLB is getting involved. Originally, they were not. That's what the story was. They haven't yet gotten involved. They refused to comment, and now it looks like they've gathered enough information since learning about this allegation to feel like the Department of Investigations need to get themselves involved and figure out what exactly is going on here. Now, Ohtani can still play. He can still play baseball while this investigation's going on.
Yeah.
But the MLB is involved. The bookkeeper right now, his house got raided late last year. This situation.
Yeah. What I'm hearing is
deeper.
that the bookkeeper, there's been some confirmations that the bookkeeper never dealt directly with Ohtani.
Correct.
So that's good for Ohtani.
That is what he said.
That's good for Ohtani, but having direct wire transfers from your bank account to an illegal bookie, that's hard to explain. And I think if Ohtani was foolish enough to allow the interpreter to have direct access to his bank account, and he never watched what kind of money was being moved in and out of the account, shame on him.
Yeah.
And his handlers too. I wouldn't say they're handling him very well if they allow something like this to happen. It's really, I find it, there's something not right here. It smells very bad, and there's a lot of unanswered questions, and we'll have to see what happens next.
Well, here's the big thing, and then here's where it could get interesting. So there's a rule underneath the collective bargaining agreement called Rule 21, which states that any player, umpire, or club or league official or employee who shall bet any sum whatsoever upon any baseball game in connection with which the bettor has a duty to perform, so betting on his own team or himself, will be permanently banned from baseball. However, in that same circumstance, if any player, umpire, club, or league official or employee who uses an illegal bookmaker or agents or whatever that is involved with this illegal bookmaker, it's up to the commissioner's discretion to figure out what the penalty should be. And someone might ask, has this ever happened in baseball? Is there a precedent? Yes, there is. Back in 2015, Marlins starting pitcher Jared Corsart used an illegal bookkeeper in order to bet, and was, I believe, he did not get a ban, but he got fined. So this is not unprecedented in baseball. Mm-hmm. We also have the Pete Rose situation where, which is...
The difference here, though, is Ohtani didn't do any betting.
Supposedly.
He
was unaware of it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he was handing his bets over to the bookie. I mean, to the interpreter. Yeah, but But if he was doing that, he wouldn't be running up a $4.5 million debt. He would have been paying it off as he went along.
Well, there's the question.
Yeah.
Did Ohtani know? Originally, it's yes, and the quote that Ohtani's interpreter used was, after Ohtani agreed to pay the debts, Mizuhara said on this past Tuesday, that Ohtani logged onto his own computer and sent the wire transfers under Mizuhara's supervision in installments over several months last year. They added loan to the description field in the transactions. So, did Ohtani make these wire transfers? Originally, it's yes. Then the next day, he had no idea any of this was going on, and he found out when the team announced this was going on and when he got fired.
Well, there should be when you make a wire transfer, right? Yep. I would guess they either do it in person, right? You go to the bank,
especially with that much money.
Right, with that much money, you either go to the bank or you do it on a recorded line. I'm sure it's going to be on a recorded line.
Or at least go to the bank and say,
so they're going to be able to find out. They're going to be able to find out who made the wire transfer. Was it Ohtani or was it the interpreter? And if there's evidence for that, I got to believe it. I got to believe
go to the
they're
bank
not going to do it.
On.
I would think that they would make Ohtani do it.
Right.
Right? Because he's the owner of the account. So this is that's probably why the MLB, they've been thinking about this. They think, this is the wire transfer, $500,000 at a pop. Is not going to be done by a bank without strict controls and authorization by the owner of the account.
Right.
Either through a signature, a signed form, right?
Yeah.
Or I guess you could say the interpreter might have forged his signature.
Could be.
On a form. Or, in-person request or a recorded line. Yeah. So they're going to find out, I think. And they'll be looking at if it was a signed form, they'll check the handwriting. Right. They can prove whether he signed it or not.
Could be. So. They're obviously going to probably go to the bank and say,
I guess Ohtani could sign a form that is a request for a wire transfer and put the reason, a loan to it wouldn't have to say anything about paying off a gambling debt.
Right.
So this is something else, man.
And supposedly it was the illegal bookmaker, the bookkeeper, that told him to put the loan down, as of the description.
Really? That's in there too?
Yeah, we had to add a description for The Wire, Ms. O'Hara said. I think Matt Boyer, I believe his name, or Bowyer, might have just told me to put loan. Quote, you have to put something. So this is a crazy situation.
Crazy, man.
Because he's the biggest player in baseball right now, and he's basically the modern era of Babe Ruth, the modern day player of Babe Ruth. This is a massive situation. And if it comes out that Shohei Ohtani, maybe unknowing to him, bet any money and you're down $4.5 million, or if you keep losing, what do you know? And if you're trying to get out of it, what do you know the best in order to maybe allow you to win back some money? Maybe the Dodgers, maybe Mookie Betts is dealing with an injury. Shohei's not 100%. The pitchers maybe don't have their fastball. The starting pitcher that day might not have their fastball. You might try, in order to get out of the debt. I'm not saying, this obviously isn't confirmed or anything. You may bet on what you know best. And that could be the Los Angeles Dodgers. That's where it gets very, very hot. Because if it comes out that there's any money bet on the Dodgers, this is very, very bad. Not only for Ohtani and his entire situation, for baseball in general.
Well, they say they didn't bet on baseball, the interpreter, but I think the interpreter, so far, I can't believe anything he said.
Well, exactly.
It's all contradictory. It's all questionable.
Then he said he didn't know.
No, yeah, right.
Within a 24-hour span.
Yeah. What do you bet? He skips the country. I mean, he's in Seoul, Korea now. He got fired over there. Yeah. So he's probably going to head back.
That's when Shohei found out.
Yeah, he's probably going to head back to Japan, and he'd never come back to this country. I don't know what kind of extradition rights there are between Japan and the United States. They'll probably try to extradite him, bring him back here. He's not coming back to the USA. I'm sure of that.
This is I would say, while the technical situation of using an illegal bookmaker is not unprecedented, this type of big-time player with this type of situation, it's back and forth and back and forth. I think that is pretty much unprecedented.
Mm-hmm. I mean, for sure, Ohtani, let's say he gets suspended for 1 year. It costs him $2 million, right? Because his contract is peanuts for 10 years.
Yeah.
And then he gets the huge payout.
$680 million for 10 years.
But the Dodgers probably have the right to void the contract now. They could probably void that contract if they wanted to.
Though?
But they don't want to, because he's the greatest player in baseball right now.
Yeah.
He might not be too smart, but he is the greatest player. So this is going to be very interesting.
Just shows you, even maybe your closest friends might be able to take advantage
I would
of
say
it.
It's not going to be. I don't think it's going to be played out here for any time real soon. I bet this
might get dragged out.
I think it got dragged out for a while. I don't think you'll see anything soon on this. Although the wire transfers should be easy to confirm. You should be able. There's going to be some documentation of that, either through him being there at the teller booth, telling him to do it, and signing a form, or signing a form and sending it in. But I would, for $500,000, I would think they want twice. So you would think they would, the bank would want a recorded line, a Zoom, him personally asking for it.
Yeah.
Signed in front of a witness at the bank, those kinds of things for that kind of money. I don't know. You'd think the controls would be pretty tight around that big a lump sum wire transfer.
It's a very, very big situation here. And baseball is known for some not great reputations. Steroid era, Black Sox, now this. Not great. Coming up, wow. We're keeping it with, some criticisms and some not great looks. Rodney Harrison and Devin McCourty recently spoke about their experiences while filming the Dynasty documentary, and they went ham on the producer and the director of it. Also, Gilbert Arenas says the Celtics have been irrelevant for the past 30 years. We make our comments right after this.
Whether you're just discovering your voice or taking your show to the next level, you know what the world needs to hear. All you have to do is say it. With Spotify, set up your podcast. Your food podcast. Your mindfulness podcast. Your never thought you'd get this far podcast. And watch those sparks fly.
I put a picture of the comment.
Drop the episode anywhere people listen. And find out who they're cooking with. where they're finding inner balance, and why they love your show. You're already a creator. Now you can create, connect, and get paid for your passion with one single free tool. Spotify for podcasters. Talk where the world listens.
Using Wi-Fi without NordVPN could mean sharing your private stuff with more people than you think. Stay safe on public Wi-Fi. Get NordVPN's special offer and encrypt your internet connection. NordVPN. Online security starts with a click.
Welcome back to the Harvey Hour. My name's Nathan Harvey. As always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. Let's keep it up with some criticisms, except this time in the form of the NFL. So, former Patriots Devin McCourty and Rodney Harrison recently spoke about their experiences while filming the documentary, the Patriots documentary, The Dynasty, and how the story was portrayed. This is what they had to say on NBC.
I watched the first one and I watched a little bit of the second, and I hadn't watched any since. I mean, I interviewed for 5 or 6 hours. I was in New York, and all they had me saying was, like, that's it. That's all I saw myself say. Like, I have a lot of input into Tom and how these guys treated me and the things that happened that led to me signing here. That was a big deal. You know, I wasn't a big fan of it.
So somebody asked me about my takeaway. And that was my biggest takeaway. I felt like I got kind of duped because I was just like you. I did like 4 or 5 hours in New York, and then I did another like 2 or 3 hours in Massachusetts. And I was like, man, this is going to be great. Like the storytelling, we're talking about this and we're talking about that. And then I watched and I was just like, man, like only things I said that could come across as negative towards Bill was the only thing.
I want to know, do you agree does Devin McCourty and Rodney Harrison, do they have a point in their criticism?
Sure they do. I mean, they had those guys interview for hours and hours and hours about all of the good things that happened with the Patriots. There was good and bad, right? And they spent maybe 10% of their time talking about the bad, 90% about the good. All that showed up on the Dynasty documentary was the bad. So they're upset about it, and I can understand that. And they don't like the fact that it degraded Belichick, and it was really pointed at him. And because they feel, you know, that Belichick did a lot for them in their career. McCourty re-signed with them twice. Rodney Harrison, a low draft round pick, right? Played for another team, was given an opportunity by the Patriots to come in and play, won 2 Super Bowls with them. Hey, Rodney Harrison made his name playing for the Patriots, right? And now he has a pretty lucrative announcing career on NBC. And McCourty too. McCourty is he's there too in an announcing role. So I think these guys they have a lot of praise for Belichick. They have a lot of praise for the Patriots organization. They have a lot of respect. They have a lot of appreciation. And none of that came through, only the negative comments. So I understand where they're coming from, and I agree with them 100%.
I'll give Rodney Harrison a lot of props. In his career, he's one of 2 players. He was the initial member, but he's one of only 2 players in NFL history to have 30-plus sacks as well as 30-plus interceptions. Very, very impressive feat. And Devin McCourty is a historical Patriot. My guess is he'll probably be in the Patriots Hall of Fame at some point.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's just a legendary player for him. However, I am apparently, according to social media and former Patriots players, apparently I'm a minority in my own opinion. I liked it. I liked it a lot. Because I took it maybe a different way than a lot of the Patriots players and a lot of the fans, the Patriots fans, thought about this documentary. I think, based on, I keep saying this, the title, it was going to be a nostalgia run of how great this dynasty actually was. When, meanwhile, in the trailer, you could see that Robert Kraft said he was just trying to keep it together. So clearly there's a lot of turmoil. And in my opinion, this documentary, and I'm glad it did this, there were a lot of mysteries and questions surrounding that 20-year dynasty, and especially what happened? Why did it crumble? And this gave us a decent amount of answers. there's much more insight than what we previously knew before this 10-part docuseries came out, which I think is very good. And in my mind, if you want to reminisce about the good old times in the Patriots dynasty, you can go to the Man in the Arena on ESPN+. Tom Brady talked about his 10 Super Bowls. You can go through the 9 of them because the last one was with the Bucs. Or watch old highlights. There are people on YouTube that post Patriots highlights. Go on social media. There's a number of accounts that post Patriots highlights. Now, would it be cool to have a documentary solely based on the entirety of the Patriots franchise? Sure. But in my mind, this documentary is more about answering questions Patriots fans have had. Spygate, Deflategate. What did the players and what did the fans and what did the coaches and owners feel about these situations? The Aaron Hernandez situation. Did they know? Who knew? We kind of found that answer out. Malcolm Butler. That question still didn't really get answered, but Robert Kraft gave us the best piece of information we've ever had. It was something personal between Butler and Belichick. That's the most we've had in, 6-7 years since it happened.
Yeah. And
officially, we found out mostly of how and why it ended. So for me, this documentary was not about reminiscing about 20-plus years of success. If they did that, they would have gone through the 2003 Super Bowl and the 2004, the first back-to-back in who knows how long, and the first since these Kansas City Chiefs this past season. Instead, it went through what happened, the trials and tribulations of the Patriots, the downfall. When did it all change? When did Belichick become this hard-shelled human being, especially in front of the media? Spygate, I think, was the start of that. And we see how his attitude shifted towards players. Tom Brady, he was gaining power in about 2010. Thought that, his job security may be on the line in 2010. And also, we have to realize it's based on a Jeff Benedict book called The Dynasty. Except it only focused on the stuff that is enticing to an audience. Conflict. Stuff like that. Conflict, drama. Stuff that people like to watch. Drama series are still on TV. It's maybe keeping some cable channels alive, is producing these drama series and true crime or whatever. Mystery. It's an enticing genre of television, books, whatever the case may be.
One other thing about the Dynasty, and I did like the Dynasty. I watched every episode at least twice.
It's great.
And I like the earlier ones better. I liked it when Brady became a star. I thought that coming out of nowhere, nobody knew who he was hardly. I really liked that part of it.
He didn't know I
do think they spent, they spent a lot of time on Spygate, a lot of time on Deflategate, a lot of time on Aaron Hernandez. It was almost a whole episode was on Aaron Hernandez. So maybe they overkilled that a little bit, but I do think they really did go after Belichick in that series, and I think that there is another side of the story, and these guys are telling it that he gave them a chance. He coached them to Super Bowls that they won that they probably otherwise wouldn't have. Rodney Harrison was playing for San Diego; they never did anything when he was playing for them, or even after that. So McCourty was drafted by the Patriots, spent his whole career there, re-signed with them twice. They have a lot of appreciation for the Patriots organization and what it did for them and what they did for it. So they're making a good point, I think. And that stuff doesn't come through in this dynasty. Maybe somebody else will make another dynasty with a different perspective on it. That's something you can do in journalism and in media, right? You can give anything you want a slant one way or the other. And this one was definitely slanted against Belichick.
Well, my argument with that is, did Belichick ever help himself out in any part of this documentary? No.
He didn't want to do it.
He was asked questions. How about this? Answer them. That's the first thing. If you don't want to make yourself seem like, just a complete dead, hard-nosed person, show some personality.
Okay, well, they asked him about Spygate. Do you have any comment? He said no. They asked Brady about Deflategate. Do you have any comment? And he said no. Neither one of them talked about it at all. They refused to talk about it. They said everything has been said. I've said everything I'm going to say. I'm not going to say another word.
Well, on the Malcolm Butler thing, he asked, why was Malcolm Butler benched? He's like, yeah, Matt, we already talked about this. And he goes, no, we didn't. So clearly the pre-interview conversation was, we're not going to talk about the Malcolm Butler situation. I don't want to answer. How about this? Let the people know. If it was, oh yeah, Malcolm Butler threatened my family, that's something we kind of want to know. That doesn't make you seem petty or, how about this? There's no mystery behind it. And how about you don't get blamed for one of the worst Super Bowl decisions the Patriots at least have ever had. Maybe the 4-13 against the Giants in the Super Bowl, maybe that was a bad one. But this is like the ultimate question Patriots had. Why had a guy play 98% of your snaps, who who made a game-saving play 2 Super Bowls ago that you were in, and he doesn't play in this one? Not only that, when your defense starts getting cooked by Nick Foles, do you not even play him? He played, I think, 1 special team snap.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah, I think
I understand. Players
you know
will
what?
be mad about
I think
that.
hindsight, people make mistakes. People make
Own up
mistakes
to
all
it.
the time.
You can own up to it. Say,
People
yeah, that
make
was a mistake, my
mistakes all
fault.
the time. If he had it to do over again, my guess is he wouldn't have done it that way.
Well, how about this? Maybe he doesn't need to be specific about what Malcolm Butler said or said not, and we'll probably never know. But at least say, it was personal, and that probably, in retrospect, was not the best decision.
Well, he could never say that because he's all about the team, right? The Belichick's mantra is, I'm about the team, right?
Yeah.
So maybe he wasn't in this circumstance, but he's not going to say he wasn't.
At least be humble. Show, like I said, show some personality. Show that, you're not this hard, tough guy that hates everybody.
Yeah. Well, that's what they portrayed him to be in the dynasty.
He does that to himself every single media session. He comes in post-game and says, we got to play harder. The next week after they get smashed, we got to play harder. On all 3 phases of the game, offense, defense, special teams. The next week, we got to play better. We got to, improve on all facets. Offense, defense. Help yourself out a little bit.
Well, you know what? It was
didn't paint you in the best picture.
It was,
you could revive your
but
image,
it was
though.
a successful formula for a long time, Nate. They won 6 Super Bowls.
Absolutely.
They won 9. They won 9 AFC championship games.
Yep.
They won the division, 18 times?
Yep.
It's a
I'm not
record.
saying it didn't work.
It's a record that I don't think will be equaled in our lifetimes.
But
Well,
my
maybe
argument is-
not mine, maybe in yours. We'll see.
My argument is, if people are complaining about how the documentary made Belichick look, how did Belichick make himself look first? And did this documentary just put that in a brighter light that maybe we haven't seen before?
Yeah, well, the timing of it was poor for him because
Right.
he's out there trying to find another job, and everything that's been coming out about him has been so negative.
Correct.
Everything.
But if people are worried about how Belichick looked, maybe think it's just showing off more of who Belichick was. Because we saw players
but there's
that played
other
with
books.
Belichick.
Nate,
Yeah,
I have a
yeah.
book about Belichick. It was written by another guy.
It doesn't talk
there.
about his personality. It talk about what he did for players and
No,
coaches.
but
to
it
help them
does
improve.
talk about his personality, and it quotes
Yeah.
a lot of the players, and it talks about him having a great sense of humor, being close with the players. He didn't, and having a strategy that they bought into. So, there's other people have other perspectives on this. This dynasty thing is one perspective.
Correct.
There are multiple perspectives. I think
Not
reading
gonna
that
argue
book,
that. That's true.
I've got that book. You can read it.
The Jeff Benedict book?
No, it's,
You have, was it
I'm trying
Six
to think
Rings?
the guys. No, it's another one. There's
You have
another
no-
one.
I know you have
it's just a
another-
Belichick is
Right,
the name of
right.
it. I can't remember the author, but it's a good book. I recommend it.
And what, that goes into Belichick the
It
person?
takes Belichick all the way through from the beginning of his coaching career,
Ian O'Connor.
even in high school. Ian O'Connor, right?
Yeah, Belichick the making of the greatest football coach of all time.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I recommend that book highly to everybody watching and to you especially.
Yeah. No, Belichick, I still think, is the greatest defensive coach of all time. And the Patriot way worked for 20 years. But as soon as the guy, the best guy in maybe in NFL history, left that building, and the same amount of success did not present itself, clearly there was one guy that made everything work better. It was the grease that kept that conveyor belt nice and smooth, kept everything moving in a nice pace. Once that
Who was that? I can't think who that might have been.
Tom Brady.
Oh, yes.
Once he left and the Patriot way didn't work, clearly something, not saying change,
Mm-hmm.
alter, because it didn't work.
Well, you know what? I think that for Brady, he went to the Buccaneers and they won a Super Bowl,
Instantly.
right? And his first year, but the next 2 years they didn't win.
Well,
They didn't win the next 2 years. In
There's
fact,
reasons
his
for that.
third year, They just barely made the playoffs, and
his
they lost in the first
losing
round.
season in his career.
Yeah,
by the way.
right. So, he did get the one ring after he left the Patriots. What is he going to get? 3? No, he didn't. He didn't get 3.
He at least should have won one more MVP.
Yeah.
That 2021 season, Rodgers got it.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, it's a good argument whether or not Brady
So
should deserve
I
it.
think that there was synergy between Brady and Belichick.
Absolutely.
And I do think it's kind of like the Beatles, right? When they broke up, when they were together, every song was fantastic. Every song was great. Every song, right? There was something about that chemistry between them that made them great. When they broke up and they went on their own, were the songs as great? I don't think so.
Well, that generally happens when something works so great, and then one.
So
person
it wasn't just
or,
Brady. It wasn't just Brady. It was the two of them together.
Right.
When they were apart, neither did as well. Brady did well the first year he got the Super Bowl.
And personally, he
But
did well
after-
that next year as well. He had
personally
like
did well.
4,300
And you know
yards.
what? The second
1,500
year,
yards, sorry.
the second year they came close to getting to the Super Bowl.
It was that Rams NFC Championship.
Yeah,
game,
right.
or
And
divisional game.
there were some injuries for the Bucs in that game.
It was the division.
And I think Brady knew. You could tell in his demeanor in that game that he was like, this is not going to go the way we want. And it almost did.
Well, he retired at the end of that season.
No, he didn't.
He
played
retired
one more.
twice.
That's
He
right.
retired, then came back.
And then he came back.
Which we actually broke the news on the Harvey Hour. That's back when we were recording videos on the show. That was So I remember that vividly. He came back on the same day, or no, he retired on the same day of Super Bowl 49, which he said is his favorite Super Bowl, which is the Seahawks Super Bowl, and he did that 2 years in a row. So there we go. There is some basis to their comments. And I think fans have a right if their expectation was, fans have a right to be mad if their expectation was that this was going to be a nostalgia run of the greatest 20 years in the Patriots history. Instead, it was, I think, answering the questions that Patriots fans have had throughout those 20 years. And if you want to go see the Super Bowls and the great runs, I recommend, I saw it twice, Tom Brady's Man in the Arena on ESPN+. It goes through each of Brady's 10 Super Bowls. And if you only care about him as a Patriot, watch the first 8 or 9 episodes, because the last one talks about his Bucs Super Bowl. That's my opinion on it. You recommend the Ian O'Connor's book. I recommend The Man in an Arena.
I'm going to watch that. I'll watch The Man in the Arena.
If you have high expectations and expect something and it doesn't turn out to be true, that's where disappointment comes into play. So that's my take on it. Let's get into this final topic of today's show. Gilbert Arenas, former NBA All-Star Gilbert Arenas, says the Celtics haven't been relevant in 30 years, and also the Toronto Raptors have more bragging rights than the Celtics do. This is full quote on his podcast, Gil's Arena. He says, if I'm being petty, 95% of the Celtics championships came before Paul Pierce was even born. They won most of their championships during the 8-team league, dog. In the last 30 years, Boston has been irrelevant in basketball history. In the last 30 years, you have one championship. And this was actually in response to Paul Pierce going on FS1's Undisputed, saying that the Celtics will break the tie between them and the Los Angeles Lakers. And the only reason they tied the Lakers, or the Lakers tied the Celtics, was because of that Mickey Mouse championship in the NBA bubble during COVID. So I want to know, do you agree with one Gilbert Arenas that the Celtics have been irrelevant for 30 years?
Absolutely not. That's a ridiculous comment. That's a sour grapes comment from a guy who really never did he ever make it to an NBA's finals in his playing career? I don't think so. He was a guy that was hurt a lot, as I remember it. I don't think Gilbert Arenas has standing to make comments like that and be and have those comments be deemed as credible. I really think they're not credible comments coming from somebody like him. I look at the Celtics, and I am a Celtics fan, so maybe I'm a bit biased, but look how many playoff runs they've had. I mean, they haven't been able to win the championship since 2008, right? That's the last time they won it. But they made some nice runs, boy, and they've won a lot of games. And the last 5 or 6 years, they've been knocking on the door. They just couldn't get beyond the Eastern Championship series, but they got there. They got there. How many teams didn't? Yeah. Right? Most of them. So, and they've had some very good players, and this year they've got a great team. They have the best record in the league, and they've already secured a playoff spot. and nobody else has. So I'd say this is their year. They got to win it, because if they don't, it will be a disappointment. Even with that great record, even if they get to the finals, if they lose it, the season's going to be considered a failure, I think.
I agree
or a very
with that.
big disappointment.
Right. And my major question is, what makes you irrelevant? Because he said the Toronto Raptors have more bragging rights.
That's ridiculous.
Do you win a championship, and is there a time slot to the championship? Because when Kobe, and even the last years of Kobe Bryant, the Lakers were becoming somewhat irrelevant because they couldn't win anything. They also couldn't make much throughout the regular season. So in the last 30 years, if it is about NBA Finals wins, this is the last 30 years. The Lakers have won 6, Spurs have won 5, Warriors have won 4, Bulls have won 3, Heat have won 2, Rockets even won 2. Heat won 3, Rockets won 2. And then you have a list of 6 teams that have only won one singular championship. I would say, and by the way, that's nearly 2/3 of the league. If you're saying that's one championship, then that's 2/3 of the league that are irrelevant. And I vehemently disagree that the Celtics have been irrelevant for the past 30 years. This would be, because they already secured the spot, their 10th straight year of making the playoffs. 10th straight year. And they've basically made it nearly to the Eastern Conference Finals. They made it 4 times. They even made the finals once, or 5 times, excuse me. And made it once, or to the finals once, and lost. But we're up 2-1. And then Steph Curry had arguably the greatest Game 4 performance probably ever. He just dominated the rest of that series and took over. The Celtics had no answers, and Jason Tatum also had triple-digit turnovers just in the playoffs alone. Not a great series, but not horrible. So what are we defining as irrelevancy? Is it the time frame of when you won your last championship? Because the Celtics, since that NBA Finals win, have missed the playoffs once. That's 15 years? 16 years, and you've only missed it once?
They've only missed the playoffs once.
One singular time, and that was in 2013 and 14, which, if I'm not mistaken, the team was literal garbage. The only player that you had that wasn't completely out of their prime was Rajon Rondo as your point guard, but he was a 7-year veteran. You really had nobody else. You had Kenny Olynyk, who was a rookie. You had Gerald Wallace, he was a 12-year veteran, but he's not going to be dominant anymore in year 12. You had Jared Sullinger and Keith Boggins and Avery Bradley and Marshawn Brooks and Courtney Lee, Jared Balin.
Who are those guys?
Yeah.
Who are those guys?
Jordan Crawford. Yeah, the Celtics just weren't good that year.
Yeah.
And in that year, they ended up winning, they won 25 games. They were terrible. But they bounced back right there with a 40-piece. 40 wins that next following season. So one missed playoff run in the past 16 years.
And that makes them irrelevant.
And apparently that makes them irrelevant. Is it the time frame you win a
what's the
championship?
record been for the Raptors over that period of time? Have they even been around for 30 years? I think they have, right? Maybe not. Maybe they haven't even been around for 30 years. They're an expansion franchise. So they won one.
They have
NBA.
not been, by the way. They have not been.
They have not been, right? How many years have they been around?
29.
29 years.
1995.
Yeah. And how have they done since then? How many times have they made the playoffs?
In the past decade, they've missed the playoffs only 3 times.
Okay. Well, 7 out of 10 they made it. Yeah.
Instead of
that's 3 times they missed it.
Instead of 15 out of 16.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And by the way, they're young. Yeah, and that's why. Is it the time frame of when you win a championship? Because if it is, then let's bring up the teams again. Are the Lakers now relevant? It's been 4 or 5 years since they won their last one. The Bulls, they won it only in the early to mid 90s. Are they now irrelevant? Now they did make it to the NBA Finals before, excuse me, I'm thinking about the Miami Heat. My fault. Houston Rockets, they've gotten close several times with James Harden, but they've never been able to make it to another NBA Finals. Cleveland Cavaliers, they won that one championship with LeBron James. Are they now irrelevant?
Denver Nuggets.
They won
last year.
But besides that, they had a very difficult time winning.
They've been pretty irrelevant.
Detroit Pistons, it's been 20 years since they won their last one.
Yeah.
Milwaukee won one back in 2021, I believe. Celtics won back in 2008.
Yeah.
Toronto
it makes no
2019.
sense what he's talking about.
There's
he
also
just
no
said
parameters.
That. Did that to get his name in the press. That's all.
what are the parameters to being irrelevant? If you make the playoffs, 6 or 7 straight seasons, you're clearly in the conversation for potentially winning an NBA Finals. You may not have great odds, but the fact that you at least got in the playoffs means you have a shot. What counts as irrelevancy? What are the parameters here? Yes, they haven't made an NBA Finals very often. Twice in the past, or twice or 3 times in the past, 15, 16 years? Okay, so be it. They're still in the conversation, though. They're a historic franchise. If I'm not mistaken, I think they're tied for the most finals wins in NBA history. Define irrelevancy. Gilbert Arenas had a pretty short-lived career. He made it to 3 All-Stars, but still. He had some, interesting situations when he was with the Washington Wizards, to say the least. Who knows? That will wrap up the show, I believe. We thank you all for tuning into today's show, the Harvey Hour. We appreciate all the support. My name's Nathan Harvey. That's been Stephen Harvey. We have been your host of the Harvey Hour. Catch us Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. So we're very, very close to making our mock drafts. So make sure you stay tuned. But we'll be back Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, right here on YouTube.
Night, Grandpa.
Using Wi-Fi without NordVPN could mean sharing your private stuff with more people than you think. Stay safe on public Wi-Fi. Get NordVPN's special offer and encrypt your internet connection. NordVPN. Online security starts with a click.